All right, here we are. Another open discussion. This is the YouTube Sports Network. And what I want to talk about briefly, because we don't have a lot of time, of course, it's 8:11 p.m. And tonight's matchup is the Denver Broncos and the Seattle Seahawks. Broncos at Seahawks. Okay, so before we get that going, there's a couple of topics, right? Michael Thomas, Bradley Chubb, and of course, tonight's matchup. So what I want to discuss about Michael Thomas is this. One, I'm bugged out. I'm bugged out about this because I didn't do fantasy football this year. I decided I'd rather be less stressed than I was the last few years. Something about fantasy and what it can do to you and throws you off. And if you really care about it, wins and losses, and telling people you know what you're talking about, and then you actually struggle making the championship, or when you get to the championship, win and this and that and that. It's just a lot of stress. Even it doesn't have nothing to do with that. It's just a stressful endeavor to be a part of. If you really care about wins and losses, and then all the other layers are deep rooted when it comes to what you know in this world and what you don't know in this world and what you pride yourself on and what you don't really care too much about. So it was very twofold for me. Don't I sound like somebody who's lost a couple of times in the championship? Okay, so Michael Thomas, right? A couple years ago, I picked Michael Thomas 4th overall in the fantasy draft. And I got some heat for that. And this was after he even had a great year. I didn't draft him his rookie year. I think I drafted him the year after. And I thought, you know what, man? I know everyone's going running backs. I know everyone's going crazy trying to get the top dogs, which is very important. And even as we see today, let me say that twice, is that even the guys who are the top dogs, you're not guaranteed nothing. So I thought to myself, let me go out and get Michael Thomas, who is what you should always seek in a first round pick, tremendous value. So we had another good year. All right, long story short, another good year. But here we are now in his career after, I think, 4 very good seasons, or at least 3 very good. I know for sure. I don't have his career stats in front of me, but you just know he's had about 3 or 4 really good seasons. But last season he didn't play at all. And 2 years ago, I think he only played about 7 games, and because he's been hurt. So then I'm like, all right, let me see what's going on with this fantasy stuff. I'm talking, I got my friends there playing too. They're gonna keep playing. They don't care. They don't get as stressed as I do. So I was like, let me go see what these rankings look like. And then I see and I notice there's no Michael Thomas. Like, he's not up there. I'm like, wait, where's Michael Thomas this time around? And you scroll. He's all the way near the middle, or like towards, I'd say, the early late rounds, if that makes any sense. Early late rounds, which is more towards the middle. But it's about 8, 9 maybe. He's going in the 8th round, maybe 9th round. And I'm thinking to myself, what is going on? What is going on? Why is Michael Thomas ranked all the way that low? Are we really considering that this guy's not going to come back and do his thing and be Michael Thomas? As long as he's healthy, he's not going to be Michael Thomas. So I'm disappointed that some of the people I was trying to assist, that they didn't take Michael Thomas, and I was bugged out. And then here we are yesterday. Michael Thomas, 2 touchdown catches, and crucial touchdown catches. They were down 26-10 the Saints. Michael Thomas catches 2 touchdowns late in the game in the red zone, 2 red zone touchdowns. So mind you, that's very important too. And that's what Michael Thomas is really key as well, is those red zone looks, because the guy doesn't drop a pass and he gets open and he makes tough catches. So who does Jameis look to when the going gets tough and they're in a very important part of the field, in a very important part of the game? He goes to Michael Thomas and he makes do on both of those. So what a nice return for him. Jameis himself too. What a great game. I mean, the beginning was a little rocky. If you watched that game yesterday, first of all, it was a really exciting game, a really exciting football game. I must say, probably one of the better ones that went down yesterday. A 1-point game, of course, is exciting, but the manner in which it was, and it wasn't like the Falcons. Like, let me tell you, if you're a Falcons fan, I know it might be a tough year for you, and I really do believe. I mean, after yesterday, even though you saw a lot of good things, I still got to say it. I mean, they're probably going to be the last They're going to get the number one pick in the draft, and then they're going to go ahead and draft Bryce Young, and then Marcus Mariota once again is going to have to find another franchise to go to. Unfortunately, I know he's signed for next year too, but you know how those contracts work. But man, that was a fun time. That was a fun team. That was a fun team to watch, and I really think Mariota is going to make the Falcons a lot more exciting. I mean, Matt Ryan, I mean, he's been there for so long, great, but I'm pretty sure that a lot of people, well, I don't know, probably annoyed, tired of seeing him annoyed and flailing his arms and pissed off and this, that, and the other thing. But okay, time for some new blood. So it was the perfect time for that to happen. And Mariota instilled some life into that team. And then you see a guy like Cordero Patterson run the ball yesterday. I was, wow. I think he got comeback player of the year last year. He's the guy's turned into a running back. First of all, it's amazing. I love it. It's so unique. Number 84 as a running back. And that was prior to the jersey changes. They implemented the jersey changes. So when I seen that, I was like, whoa. My man is strictly a running back now. Like, I know the Patriots, he was with the Patriots doing that. Where else was he? Was he with the Raiders? Where else was he? He was becoming this. I know he started with the Vikings, but like people would just sign him on to be that guy, to be the running back, and now he's like a full-blown running back. Of course, he does. He still catches his passes. You can still stick him in the slot or in the outside. He's still going to run a good route and catch the football. So I would like to see how if they continue that going forward. I know sometimes bad teams or like teams that aren't doing well or not expected to do well, sometimes they fade you out near the end of the season, mid to end of the season, especially if things aren't going too hot. So I want to see what type of year he has. It's crazy because he was sitting there in the fantasy drafts too. And like, yeah, but then I'm probably not going to be that good. And plus, like, we don't know what to expect, people were thinking. But wow, I didn't know what to expect either because I know they want to work in the other kid. I know they have Damian Williams as well, but Tyler Algier, I think his name is, kind of in the 5th round. People expected him to be the dude eventually, but until now, Patterson was slashing and dashing and stopping and starting, and he had a tremendous amount of holes to run through. And that's when I saw when I was watching the game over. It's like, wow, that Falcons offensive line. I mentioned it a couple videos ago when I was covering the team. I was saying that if there's one thing that's going to do be pretty good this season for the Falcons, it is going to be through the play of the offensive line because they invested a lot of draft picks, a lot of high draft picks into that line, and it paid off, or at least it is paying off. Anytime they can give yourself a chance, you're giving yourself a chance to win when you can let your quarterback throw and you can have your running backs run. You're gonna have a fighting chance, and that's what they did yesterday. Unfortunately, the Saints corrected their run defense, which surprisingly they were giving up a lot. But they corrected their run defense, and but it was just game flow as well. Falcons at some point just couldn't get it going near the end when he needed to get some rushing touchdowns. But Mariota was really holding it together, and he's got a stronger arm than people think. I mean, he was whipping that ball. I don't know what it has to do with the dome, but he was really whipping that ball. But again, that's just the Michael Thomas thing. Is like the season. Let's see what type of season he has and how many people go, what the hell? I had a chance to get Michael Thomas, I can't believe I didn't draft him. Chris Olave, that's the dude, which he looked good too. He caught his passes. He caught a 2-point conversion as well. That Saints team should be a lot of fun this season, and the Falcons as well. Not sure how many wins they're going to get, but the Saints should once they open up the offense and it required them to throw the ball because they had a slow start, and Jameis had 3-4 receivers to throw to, and he had his checkdowns. They really started moving the ball. He was throwing seeds. He had touch passes. He had a timely throw down the field as well to Jarvis Landry to get them into field goal position. Like, really fun game. My boy Michael Thomas. I just want to talk about him. That's my guy. If you know me, you know that's my guy. So I can't believe he went so low in the draft. Tremendous value. People follow the fantasy football rankings. That's the thing. They put so much into that. They just let them guide. They let the rankings guide their decision. And I get it. Sometimes, it's not off. It's pretty correct. But then there's a lot of times where there's just like a diamond in the rough there, or like there's a loophole, or you're really looking too much into the rankings instead of making your own assessment. So, man, Michael Thomas, good for you and good for whoever drafting him. That's my guy. Let's talk real quick. It's been 10 minutes and it's 8:21, and I want to get this out real quick. Bradley Chubb, Defensive Player of the Year. I repeat that. Bradley Chubb, Defensive Player of the Year. Possibly, right? I'm throwing it in there. Or at least Comeback Player of the Year. He didn't play, at all last season? See, the reason why I'm going with him is because, well, last year, Broncos third overall in points against, right? That's something, if anyone didn't know about, that happened. So third overall in points against, beautiful. They should be a better team, right, this year overall. Also, there's going to be opportunities considering that the Broncos are going to probably lead late into games. They're going to lead. They're going to have more leads late in the game than they did last season. Can we say that? Um, and during those times, there's always that timely sack, that key interception, that key fumble, whatever it is that's created on the defense, right? You saw that yesterday. That closing, they called it the closing sack, a sack to close out the game, right? And that's what happened with Khalil Mack in the Raiders game. So Khalil Mack is in consideration for Defensive Player of the Year. So again, and in that position, outside linebacker, edge rusher, D end, even D tackles, of course, with Aaron Donald. Those are the positions most of the time. Besides Stephen Gilmore a couple years ago with the Patriots, right, as a corner, that's rare, but it's usually a player along near the line of scrimmage, pass rusher that's going to win the award. And I think that Chubb is being that he's healthy, being that he was a fifth overall pick in his draft and the first player taken in that draft. Let's not forget that. That was the same draft of Denzel. Oh, all right, let me take that back. Denzel Ward is drafted fourth, but I mean like pass rusher, first pass rusher taken. Because after that, I mean, there was Ward taken fourth overall, corner, then Chubb, and then there was Roquan Smith, linebacker, but he's more of a tackling coverage linebacker. Then you had Vita Vea, Deron Payne, and Marcus Davenport, and going all the way down, Tremaine Edmonds, and Derwin James, and Jair Alexander. I can keep going, Leighton Van Der Esch. But first pass rusher essentially taken. So basically, ahead of all these really good names and impact players as we see today. So I just think that he is in line with the defense that the Broncos are going to have this season, and with more opportunities to get those key game-ending sacks. Plus, he's going to get his sacks because he has gotten his sacks in the past when healthy, but he didn't even have a sack in 7 games last season, interestingly enough. And so I just think that him healthy on the team he is, with the pedigree he has, he's got Randy Gregory on the other side of him, and he's got good corners and he's got a good secondary behind him. That's gonna give the quarterback a difficult time because he's not gonna be able to just throw it because they're wide open. No. So overall, it's gonna be a good unit. I think he's gonna be able to benefit from that. But I think, as being who he is, I think he's going to have a great year. I would consider. I saw his odds. I think they were about plus 4,000 for him to be Defensive Player of the Year. That's a nice payout, if you ask me. Throw a little money on that. A little bit of a long shot / sleeper, I guess you can call him, but not like he's unknown. People know who he is. But those are some nice odds. That's the most recent thing I saw today was plus 4,000. So I wish I could throw the money on. I wish I could throw a good amount of money on that. First of all, I got to download the FanDuel app because that thing is the worst app in the world. You can't find a location. Connect the Wi-Fi. I connect the Wi-Fi, nothing. So if you're out there, guys, think about it. I mean, Von Miller's plus 3,000. Yeah, I'm looking at these lists right here, but I like Bradley Chubb. And see, the fact that he's on this list, I don't know what other lists look like. T.J. Watt's at the top, and Myles Garrett, Donald, Parsons, Bosa's. I mean, there's a lot of guys, especially after all the games that went down this weekend. A lot of those pass rushers continue to do their thing. They did their thing. So it's going to be tough. I mean, a lot of competition, but I like the situation. Can at least be Defensive Player, a Comeback Player of the Year? Is he in consideration for that? So I like those chances. I would take those chances. I'll take those odds. What are we talking here? Oh, but before that too, you got to compete with Danielle Hunter. Danielle Hunter. I'm just calling him Danielle. They call him Danielle. Whatever he is, he's the man. on the Vikings. So he's in consideration as well for those two awards. And he's a Hall of Famer in the making. There's no question about that. If you follow the career, there's no question that guy's defensive is a Hall of Famer in the making. But we're talking about Danielle Hunter. But I'm talking about also Bradley Chubb, his chances. So for tonight's game, starting in a few minutes, before I even get there, can we envision a scenario where I think this could be a close game, at least in the beginning, or I feel like the Seahawks are gonna give the Broncos a really, really tough time because I don't think we should sleep on it. I mean, I was looking at the stats yesterday, and yes, surprisingly, I mean, without even not that it meant the whole thing, a whole bunch, but Seahawks have a really good run defense, and the Broncos have a really good run offense. So that matchup right there is going to be interesting. But I want to see the young studs of uh, of the Seahawks with Jordan Brooks and Darryl Taylor on the edge. I think between Brooks making all those tackles like Wagner did in his heyday and still does, and Darryl Taylor being the edge rusher that the Seahawks would love to have for many years going forward. I think those two guys in particular are going to give the Broncos a little run for their money. They're going to get some airtime today. They're gonna get a lot of airtime today. They're going to talk about. Of course, they're going to highlight them. I think they're going to maybe one or two of them are going to get their hands on Wilson. At least Darryl Taylor will. So I think that's something that I want to see. But as far as like overall, I mean, Russell Wilson, is this a game-winning drive in the making? I have a good feeling too who's going to pick this team apart. I mean, the Seahawks last year gave it the second most pass yards in football per game, at least. So I believe that Russell Wilson, with his options, his beautiful targets. I mean, he's got my boy Cortland Sutton. He's got Jerry Jeudy, who's going to have a fantastic season. Two guys that can get down the field. Very similar in nature, I feel like, to what the Seahawks had with Wilson was DK Metcalf and Tyler Lockett. I feel like very similar down the field threats. Now he has these guys, Sutton and Judy. Judy's in line for a huge year. I really do. I mean, you can only do. I think he had about 400 yards receiving last year. I know it was a hit and miss. I believe he missed some games and all, but down year for him. Not what they're expecting him to do, or and it hasn't done what he's expected to do. So I think that Wilson's going to make those guys tremendous. I think those guys are going to have great seasons, of course. And I think this is a matchup where Russell Wilson's going to have a great game. He's going to put up monster numbers. So it should be a lot of fun. And that's my take. That's my take on these games, on the game tonight, and Michael Thomas. And that's my guy. That's my guy, Michael Thomas. And then Bradley Chubb. Excuse me, Bradley Chubb, Defensive Player of the Year candidate. At least comeback Player of the Year, but definitely Defensive Player of the Year candidate. I'd say throw it in now. We'll see how he does tonight. Hope I don't eat my words, but it's a long season. Just saying. And then as far as the Seahawks, I want to see their young studs perform, but I think that Russ is gonna put on a show tonight. He's gonna put on a show tonight in front of his people, in front of his old crowd. So I think that, and it's gonna come by way of the pass. I think it's gonna come by way of picking apart that defense, picking apart that secondary. Because you know what? Let's just say this. The numbers show that they can be picked apart, or at least give up a lot of yards. So let's see how that turns out. I'm going to sign out. I'm going to move on. I'm going to turn the game on. I hope you guys too. Please, you like it, you subscribe to it. You just want to follow along here and there, no problem. You want to, continue the discussion, which is to me is most important, because what is better than talking about sports? Really, what is better than talking about sports? I don't think there's anything better than talking about sports. I mean, when you really know what you're talking about, or not that saying I do, but when you got something to share, you got something to talk about, you got your opinion, I think that's probably one of the best conversations you're going to have in this world, especially today where everything's all over the place. Talk about sports. There's nothing better. This is the YouTube Sport Network, and I'm out of here.